Hello YouTube, my name is Nolan Staff, Kettlebell Trainer, and in this video I am going to show you 6 must-do kettlebell moves, their variations, and how you can structure them into your very own kettlebell workout. Now, these 6 kettlebell moves are essential to get down in your training. They are 6 of the most basic movement patterns that we have when it comes to not only training but everyday life. These movements are essential to get into to have a well-rounded, balanced workout routine. Movement number 1 is the swing, or in this case, the kettlebell swing. Now, the kettlebell swing is the foundation, the fundamental essence, if you will, of what kettlebell training is. The kettlebell swing is a movement pattern that is going to really unlock your hips. It's going to make them more mobile, stronger, more powerful. It's a really fantastic movement. So the swing at its most foundational level will be the two-handed kettlebell swing with just one kettlebell. And I'll show you what that looks like here. You're going to grab the kettlebell and hike it back between your legs and then drive through with the hips as such. A few key points when it comes to the kettlebell swing: make sure to keep your feet at about hip to shoulder width distance at a slight 45-degree angle pointed outwards. You're going to bend at the hip. This is a hip hinge movement. That means you're bending at the hip. You're not squatting when you're swinging. You're bending at the hip. Also, keep the elbows not completely locked out, but a little bent. This is going to make it so you can control the kettlebell and keep it closer to the body, displacing the power more vertically instead of losing control and displacing it outwards. You don't want power to be outwards. You want it to be in tighter and feel it going upwards. Maintain control of the bell. Variations of the swing, the kettlebell swing. We can do a single arm swing with just one arm. We can do a double kettlebell swing. And even swings that go side to side or that 45-degree angle. Our second movement is a squat. Now this can be movements like goblet squat, a double kettlebell front rack squat, things of that nature. Now the squat is a very, very fundamental movement pattern that we have as humans. Think about it. When you bend down to pick something up, everyone's always telling you to use your legs, right? And in most cases that's going to look kind of like a squat mixed with, maybe sort of some sort of like deadlift or whatever. But or even when we go to sit down, we're always squatting in life, and it is a fundamental movement pattern that we have as human beings, and we should really focus and hone in on training that a lot as such, and really putting focus onto that movement pattern. The squat is also one of the biggest bang for your buck exercises you could do in general. You're using the biggest muscles in your body, your quads, hamstrings, glutes. Now, of course, you don't even need a kettlebell to do a squat. I mean, you can just simply do a regular body weight squat. Now, of course, we're going to go over some variations with the kettlebell in that squatting movement pattern. But if you have trouble, say, finding your balance or maybe keeping your chest high when you're doing that regular body weight squat, that's where a kettlebell comes in nicely to aid in that. Because if you have that in the goblet squat position, it more or less forces your upper body to keep stabilized rather than, crunching forward. So that's where a kettlebell can be really, really useful in training those maybe weak posterior muscles that keep you upright, especially when you go down into that squat. And a fantastic exercise to do for anybody, I don't care who you are, is the goblet squat, because it is so easy to just automatically train the right squatting movement pattern and really forcing you to keep an upright torso, because if you don't, you're really going to feel it in your lower back, right? And it's really going to train you to, hey, I need to keep tall, upright, strong core, tall posture while going into that squat position. Now, to do and perform a goblet squat, there's a few different ways you can do it. You can hold it at the horns like this and go down. You can hold it upside down by the horns like this. This is also another good way to do it. You can also hold it upside down, turn it side to side, and it's really good to do with this belt because it's a pro-rated kettlebell, but it has the little indentations here on the side for a really good grip. Hold it like this. Use whatever variation is most comfortable to you. Every body is different. So what you do may not necessarily be best for your friend or the person next to you. Do what is comfortable for you. Now, a few more different variations of a squatting movement pattern that we can do with the kettlebell or kettlebells. A single kettlebell front rack position squat. This is good for training balance and having weight loaded on one side of our body while the other is free. So it gives a little bit of a different kind of stimulus and tests our body in a different type of way. Make sure to keep it even and do the same amount of reps on both sides, of course. But that'll look like that. So we're going to get it into the front rack position. I like to put my hand out here for balance and go down. Squat. We can also load up with two bells, one in each arm, front rack position, and do a squat also for a more intense challenge. And last but not least, we can also do single leg movement patterns that kind of replicate a squat, but with one leg at a time, like such. We do a reverse lunge on either side. The third movement pattern is a hip hinge movement pattern. Hip hinge movement patterns are another one of those movement patterns that we use in every single day of life. You know, you have a slight bend in the knees and you're bending over at the hip, say to pick something up, you know, maybe when you're at work, picking up a tool or a material, or maybe if you're a parent and picking up your child. Either way, the hip hinge movement is another one of those foundational movement patterns that we use all of the time, and we should really focus on it and give it its due diligence because it's important to the overall functionality and health of us. And not only that, but it'll blow up your hamstrings, your glutes, and your posterior chain, your back, the entire posterior chain. You want big glutes. Not only do you squat, but hip hinge movements are going to give you some big glutes. The first hip hinge movement I'll show you is the conventional deadlift. Feet about hip width apart, bend over at the hip, and really feel it in your hamstrings and in your glutes. We can also do a sumo deadlift. Feet a little wider than shoulder width. Same thing. We can do a double kettlebell deadlift, also called a suitcase deadlift. And we can also do single leg variations. The fourth movement pattern that you really want to incorporate when it comes to your kettlebell training is a pull pattern. Now this can be a row, a high pull, or even from a bar or gymnastics rings for some sort of vertical pull, since we can't really get that with our kettlebell training because, well, you know, their bells were lifting up and off the ground. So having a bar for your vertical pull would help a lot when it comes to your own personal journey and training. So with pulling movements, we can do movements such as rows, some plyometric rows, two-handed rows, and high pulls. The fifth movement is a push, horizontal push. Pushing movements are another one of those essential movement patterns that we as humans have. Hey, it's kind of a recurring theme, all of these being, you know, pretty fundamental things that we do, you know, every day. So we can do push-ups with the kettlebells to allow for more depth, like such. We can also do them without the kettlebells on the regular ground. Started to get dark out on me, so I had to bring my ring light in to finish this video up, but nonetheless, we're going to finish it. So, the final sixth movement of our 6 essential movements is a vertical press. This can be done with 1 kettlebell, 2 kettlebells in each arm at the same time. We can also do different variations like windmills, stuff like that. So we can do regular shoulder presses with one bell. We can do push presses. We can do jerks. Another really cool movement that we can do with the kettlebell is a windmill, right? And this is what that kind of looks like. It's more of a bent over pressing movement. Really good for your mobility, stuff like that. So you're going to want to go to the front rack position, press up, get your toes pointed the opposite direction that the bell is in at a 45-degree angle. Keep your eyeballs on the bell, hand out for balance. We're going to bend at the hip while keeping the bell pressed up. Those are the 6 fundamental movement patterns that you need to incorporate into your training, whether it's kettlebell training or any other sort of, you know, training that you do. A swing, a squat, a hip hinge, a pull, a push, and a vertical press. Now, to structure your training programs or your workouts, you can do it a whole variety of ways, as long as you are getting all of those movement patterns more or less in balance with each other, right? So you could do a upper lower type of split if you want. Say you do, like, you know, leg exercise and swings on one day and then upper body movements on another day. Do it like a push-pull variation. So one day you're doing pushing exercises, the other day you're doing pulling exercises. You can also do and this is one of my favorite, full body type of workouts where you do all of those movement patterns, or almost all of those movement patterns, in one workout, right? Now, an example of that sort of workout could be like, let's say you do 5 swings, 5 goblet squats, 5 deadlifts, 5 push-ups, 5 horizontal pulls, and then 5 presses, whether it's 5 in one hand and 5 in the other, or 5 with both hands. It doesn't really matter. You're getting all of those movement patterns in one workout. And let's say that is the workout that you wanted to do. You're going to do all of those exercises back to back to back, 5 reps of each, and you're going to do it, let's say, 5 to 10 sets with, maybe 30 seconds to a minute of rest in between, depending on your current ability and where you're at. A beginner, you might need more rest, you do less sets. Somebody who's more advanced, who has been working out and has been, doing this for a little bit, they do more sets. They do, maybe 8 to 10 sets with less rest in between. It also depends upon the weight that you're using of the kettlebell. If you're using a lighter weight, of course you're going to be able to do, maybe more reps, more sets, less rest time. If you're using a substantially heavier kettlebell, you're going to have to do less of that. It all depends on what you're using and the intensity that you're going at. So that wraps it up. Those are your 6 essential movements that you need to incorporate into your kettlebell training. If you like the video, make sure to like it. If you want to see more videos similar to this, where I do workouts and even tips relating to kettlebells, go ahead and subscribe. But until next time, I will see you guys later.